The game, Etherworld, it was released 10 years ago as a dating simulator targeted at a female audience, but it ended up more popular among male players. It allowed players to play a variety of characters, starting from easy but very efficient characters to the more complicated but inefficient characters. Amongst them was one trash character, especially known for his difficulty level and terrible features. There was only one pervert who played this character for 10 years, and that pervert was the player, Beak Asio. An evening with the sky, colored orange from the setting sun. UCL paused in front of his screen. He noticed new posts in the forum and wondered if there was a new update. He noticed a lot of complaints from other players and wondered if there was a final boss in a dating sim. He thought those kinds of games usually ended when players got together. However, he noticed a famous ranker complained that the boss was unbeatable, so he set down his coffee. It doesn't make sense for there to exist a monster with magic nulfing skills in a magical world, and wonders if it is a bug cause some characters got deleted. Then he sees the Dark Demon Dragon, the 13th moon of the Black. In the Ether world, there is a cult-like organization called Dark Demonic Humans. Their goal is to help another world, called Persona Gate, take over the world. When they finally managed to achieve this goal, the Dark Demon Dragon appeared. 90% of the continent got taken over, but our main guy has only concerned himself with PvP and not the main story so far. The whole lore got messed up, but he can't avoid fighting it, so he decides to give it a try. He enters the game and accepts the request to fight the Dark Demon Dragon. He decides to show off the skills he's honed over the last 10 years, so his character appears before the beast. His character, BQCL, is the sole character in the game who cannot use magic, so even the most experienced players choose to not play him. Basically, he's worse than an extra, but of course, the character can use some magic. The dragon prepares its fiery breath to roast his player and fires at his player. His player faces the dragon with determination and grins. His power is the blink spell, moving super fast as he charges at the dragon. He slid to a stop and gritted his teeth. Beak UCL's blink spell allows him to randomly travel between 3 to 10 meters very quickly. The direction he will blink in is random, so if he does not control the distance well, he will die immediately due to the speed and impact. The cool time and mana usage is also ridiculous. There is also a penalty where he cannot move 2 seconds after using the skill. Anyone can learn it, but most people don't use it. However, Beak UCL has mastered the use of blink. He can control which direction he will go in. He can also control the distance and has managed to nullify the penalty. It does not use up mana since he does not have a mana stat. Unlike other spells, blink was nothing more than just a movement ability. He became obsessed with this character since everything depended on his skill level. So over the last 10 years, he has been playing as the only character in the game that does not use magic in battles. The dragon charged again, and Beak UCL attacked. He dodged the dragon's next attack and looked upon his opponent. The beast fell as the notification came up that he had defeated the final boss. He was shocked that he actually killed, though he was covered from head to toe in ancient relic-grade items. Still, he played a garbage character, but it was nice that he beat the boss. He will flex to the community that he killed the Dark Demon Dragon, however. He got a loud notification that because the wrong ending has been reached, 90% of Etherworld has been destroyed. He is shocked, and the notification informed him that he was the closest to reaching the true ending. Then, the notification begs him to please reach the true ending. Our main guy was very confused, but suddenly he was zapped away and everything went quiet, leaving only his chair and computers behind. He opened his eyes with a gasp and found himself on the floor. Sitting up, he wondered what was going on. He also wondered where he was. Then he glanced to his side and saw the mirror before him. Stepping closer to the mirror, he saw his reflection and his eyes widened in surprise. He had the appearance of BQCL. Suddenly, something glitches and a notification screen pops up before him. It tells him this is episode 1, titled Escape the Chase. He is surprised because he recognizes BQCL's. He slips his hand into his pocket and is shocked to see the entrance certificate to Stella Academy. It is hard to believe, but he is definitely in the ether world, and he is stuck at Beak UCL. He places his hand on his face with a groan, but decides to be logical about it. The voice told him to reach the true ending, but from what he knows, the game does not have a true ending. Then his eyes widen, as he realizes that no one has managed to reach the true ending in the last 10 years. This is not the time to think about that though, cause if memory serves him right. Right after his character wakes, the people chasing after him burst into the hut. Sure enough, there are angry people searching for him, and he hides in apprehension. They are already here, and a blonde member of the group spots something. He yells to the group that he has found a hut and tells them to search it. They rush ahead, and our main guy wonders what to do. There is a limit to how long he can avoid them, but he cannot fight them either. He wonders what to do when a screen pops up again. The screen tells him that he can use the spell Blink, and he is shocked that he can use Blink. Blink is an ability that allows the user to flash forward, with a body that suffers from magic leakage syndrome. Beak UCL cannot accumulate mana in his body, and he only has Blink as his one hope. It is the spell that he practiced his whole life. Back to the present. He is still hiding in the hut, his face fixed on the screen as he sees the offer to use Blink. It is 0 class, with a maximum distance of 9 meters and just one charge. Cooldown is 3 seconds. He wonders if he should use Blink when he only controlled his character with a mouse and a keyboard. Running feet. As the hooded men charge towards the hut, he does not have time. His eyes widen and he gasps to see that they are already here. There's no time left, so he grits his teeth and decides that he must try. The hooded men stop with alarm. They notice him running from the hut and declare that they have found him. Immediately, they are ordered to chase him. They race after him through the snowy forest outside with no intention of letting him escape. The first part of the tutorial is for him to avoid the pursuers using the power of Blink. He runs into the forest, noting that his pursuers wear magic boots that are faster than he is. The only way he can escape is if he uses Blink. He calms himself, knowing he has used Blink 1,000 times before. The timing is burned into his muscle memory. His pursuers scream in rage that he won't stop running away, and he sees that they have caught up with him. Blink's main disadvantage is that if the user fails to control the distance, they could collide with an object and die instantly. However, as the lead chaser swings his mighty sword at him, our main guy activates Blink. When he uses it, the ability works differently, and he takes on a burst of speed, vanishing from his attacker. He is shocked but pleased that his execution of the ability was a success. His pursuers are shocked to see him use Blink, as they did not believe he was a mage. The lead blonde tells them not to falter, because Blink has a rest period that paralyzes the user for 2 seconds. However, the lead is shocked to see that the main guy can still move and is still running. He runs fast through the forest and encourages himself to be more careful. He must use the uneven terrain to his advantage. Since players who aren't able to learn how to control Flash at this stage won't be able to make it to the next episode. In reality, 99% of players who played this character were unable to pass the tutorial, and even the 1% that passed were unable to surpass the wall of blink distance control and continuous blinking. Our main guy counts down, 3, 2, 1. In 3 seconds, he blinks once more and moves rapidly through the trees and snow, his brown coat flying in the wind. His pursuers think he is insane for using blink in such a terrain. He tells all those who can use magic to come to the front and attack the main guy from a distance. The menacing-looking mages come forward, and our guy can tell they are going to use magic against him. The second part of the tutorial was to use blink to dodge the magic arrows flying at him. In the game, players could see everything behind because it's on a monitor, so he could dodge it then. His screen pops up again and informs him that his magic leakage syndrome is being used. Its derivative skills include sixth sense and cognitive acceleration. He is shocked as the power from these skills floods his system in multiple lights of green and pink as he stares in bewilderment. Then, he bursts forward, activating blink and dodging all the magical attacks till he slides to a stop. A crate smokes where he used to stand, and he sighs in relief because that was a close call. Then he takes off running once again. The last part of the hurdle involves tutorial part 3, crossing a canyon while using blink. The canyon is deep and deadly. The only way to cross is to control the distance of his blink perfectly. Then he can meet up with some passing mages and escape. And that will end the tutorial. To pass this part, he has to cancel his blink spell, which occurs in 0.1 second at the perfect time. If he fails, he will die. There are about 20 floating boulders. Crossing them is a lot easier said than done. He wonders what jerk made the tutorial this difficult. However, being honest, it is just about doable. His pursuers once again catch up with him and shout out his location to their comrades. The problem with making this jump is that his pursuers are closer than expected. The distance between him and them is about 100 meters. Since his blink has a 3-second cooldown, that is not enough time to make it across. The likeliest method he can use now, for his survival, is to kill them all. The deadly snowy canyon is vast with many floating rocks, and our main guy hides underneath a snowy tree. Even he thinks it is crazy. How dare he think he can achieve this when he has never even been in a proper fight? If this were a game, the system would make it impossible to attack those who are chasing him. This is reality. No rule says that I have to blindly follow the game's system. The thought of killing someone doesn't bother him at all. This is not because those guys are his parents' enemies, according to the story. He glances behind him and sees that they are there. He believes that he can win. He stands with his knife in hand as his enemies appear before him. They shout out in anger and race to catch him. They charge at him, and his attacker laughs that he dares to fight them all alone, and that he is done for. His target is 8.7 meters away, so he activates Blink. His attackers are confused when he suddenly charges forward. He appears before one attacker, suddenly appearing closer than the man expected him to get, and the attacker coughs blood that splatters on his face. Our main guy has stabbed him with the knife, and he feels the blood running down his fingertips, yet he feels no sense of guilt at all. After all, he is only killing them to survive. So, he yanked out his knife from the dead man and smacked his body away. The man's corpse fell into the arms of his colleagues. The attackers become alarmed and see that he is getting away. They scream that he must not escape at any cost. He has dealt with one of them, but the next attack won't be easy. However, he notices it has gone quiet and wonders if they gave up on chasing him. However, he sees that they did not give up and have instead switched to magic attacks again. He tries to dodge it, but nearly loses his footing. The attackers fire magic at him, and the runes glow as the magic is shot right at him. He groans as large, giant orange flaming fireballs come flying right at him and grits his teeth as he tries to avoid it. Suddenly, he sees an opening on a tree branch at the side of the mountain and activates his blink. The fireballs hit the area where he'd previously been standing, and smoke covered up the area. The lead attacker says that it serves him right for being so cocky and acting up. However, the smoke clears and they can't see his body in the crater that was made. The lead attacker is shocked that he's not there, and our guy appears above him. The lead guy looks up just in time to make eye contact with him, and our main guy grits his teeth with determination. One of the peculiarities of Blink is that it maintains the same momentum before and after use. Using the ability, he stabs the lead attacker and the man screams in pain, leaving the other attackers confused and scared. They ask what happened, but blood has already been spilled, and our main guy has sliced through the lead attacker. The other attacker stares in shock as the man's body falls, and our guy stands before his fallen corpse, covered in blood. He pauses to catch his breath. Only 2 are left within his range, and he needs to end it before the 2 who fell behind catch up. The other attacker thinks he is a weird guy with an uncanny reaction speed for a mage. He asks our guy who he is. His reaction time is admittedly faster than most professional gamers, but that is only when talking about games. He cannot keep dodging their attacks forever, especially at such a close range. So, he shall end it as quickly as possible. However, the second attacker says that he has already figured out his fighting style. All this guy uses is blink and a dagger. As long as he protects his face and neck, then the dagger won't scratch him. The attacker raises his large sword as our guy runs at him. He tells him to bring him on and activates Ice Wave. Our guy activates Blink, and the attacker slashes a wave of ice at him. He laughs that he has got our dude, and he will make his face wrinkle in pain. However, he is shocked to hear a gurgle beside him, and sees that our guy has slashed the neck of his companion. He is horrified to see our dude slice through the throat of his teammate. The attacker curses. Earlier, our guy was running like a rat who has never fought before, but now he is acting differently. He admits that he acted like that earlier, but he thanks the attacker for helping him get better at it. He curses that he is a little brat just because they went easy on him. He will kill our guy this time. Our main guy charges once again with determination on his face. Our guy raced at him with his weapon raised and flung it at his attacker. Using blink head-on puts him at risk of getting counterattacked. The attacker wonders if our guy is trying to lure him into defending his front by throwing the spear and then aiming for his side. However, he won't let our guy have his way, and he slices through the weapon with his sword. Now all he has to do is attack our guy while he is beside him. That's what he thinks. But he is shocked to see that our guy is not at his side. He stares in shock, then realizes with horror that our guy came from the front and stabs him. He was planning on attacking from the front from the beginning. He is informed on a blue information screen that he has obtained EXP. He has been promised an additional reward for uniquely developing the story by the Constellation Project. He sits on the snowy floor with a sigh of relief and struggles to catch his breath. His blood hand shakily reaches for the bloody knife, and he glances at the corpses that lay beside him, covered in red. He reminds himself that this is not a dream, and he just experienced his first blink and his first battle, as well as his first murder. He sits and thinks grimly about how he killed a person to survive. He dusts the snow from himself and gets to his feet with a sigh. He shall leave this place for now. He pauses when he suddenly recalls something and turns around. He pauses as he thinks deeply, although it leaves a bitter aftertaste. He has to think realistically since he is broke. So he rummages through the corpse pockets and finds around 2 million credit, which is approximately 2 million won. It is better than nothing. Now the problem is how to cross the snowy cliff before him. Suddenly he hears a voice calling out to ask if anyone is there. He sees a group of hooded figures in the distance and recognizes them as the group of mages that appear in the tutorial. He waves to them, and they shout that there is no bridge, unsure on how he will cross. However, he tells them that he is on his way, and they decide to wait for him to cross. However, they say he would need to be a third-class knight to successfully cross the cliff, and they doubt it is something a young boy can do. However, to their surprise, they see him zapping from floating rock to floating rock, using the power of blink. He moves quickly and swiftly like the Flash, and they stare in wonder at his skill. They wonder if he is using a jumping type of magic, and realize he is using blink. Among the mages, a blue-haired girl with deep blue eyes watches his approach. They are surprised he is using a blink when it won't be able to control the direction and distance. They are surprised that such control over blink is possible, and they stare in surprise when 2 more people show up at the edge of the cliff. However, they watch the other 2 charge up some spells that are aimed at the boy they are trying to aid. It's the remaining attackers, and the other mages yell at the boy to watch out. Our main guy barely manages to dodge the attack using blink. He makes a narrow escape and turns to face those other 2 mages who attack from the distance. He figures they are with the mercenary group after him, and realizes this is dangerous. His power has 3 seconds to cool down. Dodging all magic with it is not possible. He has to find the next floating stone that will work as his foothold. However, to his surprise, a mage fires up a spell and shoots at him again before he can think up a plan. He barely dodges the attack, and the stone he stands on gets a crack. He realizes he is going to fall as he slips from the rock. Unfortunately, all the floating stones are too far from him, and he hopes that he lands on just one. He uses blink and zips through the air, hand outstretched to grab a floating stone. He manages to grab it, hanging on barely. He is relieved to have survived. However, his enemies fire yet another fiery spell at him, and he realizes his survival is not guaranteed. There is no way for him to dodge with him hanging off the rock, and he realizes that he is going to die suddenly. Ice magic comes forth. The great blue spell collides with the orange of fire, and a blast of wind that halts the fire spell in its tracks, and the air clears to reveal that our main guy was protected from being burnt to a crisp. He looks up in surprise and wonders what that magic was just then. An ice spread covered with lightning. Someone just used 2 attributes and 1 magic in the tutorial. Furthermore, the caster precisely calculated the trajectory without wasting mana. He wonders who could perform such a feat. Glancing at the mages gathered at the other side, he spots the blue girl with cold eyes and a spark of magic on her staff. The mercenary mages are shocked at such a display of power that they turn tail and flee with fear. Our main dude watches them flee with relief. and sighs in relief that he will survive after all. He manages to drag himself up and makes it to the mages who wait for him at the other side. However, his attention is on the hooded figure that saved his life. He thanks her for helping him, and she says that she did not do it to receive any gratitude. He thinks she has the prettiest voice he has ever heard in his life, but she seems difficult to approach. Anyway, although they are known as bandits who pillage nearby villages, in reality, most of such activities are carried out by the dark demon cult. However, even that ends here. The moment he escapes this cliff, he will enter the territory of the mages, and the dark demonic humans will no longer be able to pursue him, not to mention that they don't even know who he is. He is taken by surprise at the sudden appearance of another status window. It tells him to enroll in the Stella Academy, and he wonders if that is the start of the second episode. It does not sound like it will be hard, so he is not too worried. Suddenly, on seeing the academy's name, his face goes pale. He wonders how he can possibly go through school again at this day and age. A crescent moon stains the night sky as Beak Uciel is being transported via a carriage. The other mages escort him as they ride in silence. He, on the other hand, falls fast asleep from the tiredness of the day's babble. From slumber, he falls into a dream state, groaning as he sees a much younger version of Uciel calling for his mom. While scraping her garments, he tells her that he will be a mage when he grows up. His mom just smiles and tells our hero that she believes in him. Uciel stares at the second-hand magic text that his parents worked very hard to get and then slits it open, promising to study very hard to make them happy. He crosses his legs as he makes use of the library until he later sleeps off on a desk nearby. His mother then shows up as she covers him up with a blanket. We're taken forward in time to a doctor's appointment where Uciel's mom asks the doctor if he's sure her son has monoleukage syndrome. Her tone is so distraught that our boy cannot even bring himself to react. He just stands there, expressionless, only freaking out in his mind. He refuses to believe it, telling himself that there's no way this could be his situation. This makes our hero wonder if they're his memories or Beak Uciel's. The little boy bursts into tears soon enough, every attempt to wipe his tears failing woefully. Our man wakes up in a frenzy, groaning as he grabs his head. Still dazed, he takes a look around and discovers that it's morning. The sun peeks out from the far mountains to confirm his conclusion. One of the mages, a redhead, exclaims that Uciel is finally up, adding that he was about to wake him. Our boy just stares at him as the mage announces that they are about to arrive in Lesowis, the satellite city of Arcanium. The wheels of the carriage are brought to a stop amidst the 2-centimeter deep snow, and the mages reach a consensus to take a temporary break. They all step out of the carriage, and Uciel stretches for a bit. His eyes widen and his expression perks up upon the sight of something, of someone more like. It was the blue-haired mage that saved him. She glares at him with lifeless blue eyes, leaving our hero more puzzled than ever. His attempt to greet her fails, mostly because she turns away before he can get to it. He grins to himself, admitting that that's a cold thing to do, and gains solace in the fact that things are going well, compared to how worried he was before. Anyway, Uciel is also grateful that the era he found himself in is closer to the modern age rather than the Middle Ages. You see, although magic exists in the ether world, there are also trains, flying ships, and even war poles set up in the safer cities. Also, that long-distance travel can be more convenient. Uciel thinks to himself that they're about to head to Lezocha to use a flying ship. As it seems, the city is en route to Arcanium, and that's where the second episode will actually begin. It's a beautiful city with tall buildings and captivating aesthetics. It's also called the City of Magic. In Arcanium, there are renowned magic towers as well as mage knight orders. It also houses 5 magic academies. Of all the 5, the academy with the most promising students and powerful mages. With arms folded, our hero leans on the carriage as he wonders how Beak Uciel managed his admission into such a place. His brows perk up as he suddenly remembers that he hasn't checked his skills yet. He does so immediately, pulling up a blue console outlining his capabilities. He experiences a little increase in his strength, agility, and sensitivity. He also checks out the new 6th sensibility, which enables him to detect mana within a 12-meter radius. To top things off, he notices his detection acceleration skill, and attributes his survival to these aforementioned skills. This doesn't stop him from remembering his predicament, being stuck with mana leakage syndrome, a cursed physique that stops him from accumulating mana in his body. He remembers how downtrodden his mom looked at the hospital and how BQCL was left with such an inherent curse. However, this allowed him to detect mana around him with his sixth sense. It also allowed him to notice any incoming attacks even if he's not looking in that direction. Detection acceleration allowed him to notice things as though time had been slowed, and he could detect any threat much faster than a normal human could. Our hero realizes how important this skill is for BQCL, but is painfully aware that he can't use sixth sense for long, seeing as it uses up a lot of mind power and leaves the user with pretty huge consequences afterwards. He goes on to check his stats. As expected, his mana is non-existent and his blink ability is still at 0. Basically, our hero has a long way to go, but realizes that it is not a bad place to start. The real BQCL had really low sensitivity, and our boy deduces that maybe it took a part of the stats of the character he had fostered UCL into. Anyway, in the Aether world, there isn't just one level, but one for each stat. The skills are in the form of levels, and the stats are measured in stars, with the maximum stat level being 9 stars. This is practically impossible to reach though. Hand on chin, RMC recalls playing the game for 10 years, but only reaching 8 stars in both sensitivity and stamina. He decides to invest into his sensitivity to boost his sixth sense and reaction speed, telling himself that he can boost stamina and flexibility through other means. Afterwards, he goes gloom again, remembering that he's still stuck with the mana leakage syndrome. He tells himself that if he doesn't train, he won't be able to survive for long. This helps him decide to, as soon as possible, upgrade to the Secrets of Nature physique. His hands dig themselves into his coat pockets as he affirms that the way to reinforce mana leakage syndrome lies in Stella Academy. This leaves him no choice but to head there if he wants to save the world and treat his syndrome. Our hero lets out a tired sigh as he admits that he already doesn't want to go. He wishes that he could get something that would help him out here, and suddenly realizes that he has missed some notifications. At that moment, one of the mages prompts everyone to resume their journey, so our boy calls out that he's coming. He simply decides to check his notifications later and has no idea that the blue-eyed mage was checking him out. Well, she looked in his direction. The flying ship is nothing if not majestic, with the wind in its sails and a beautiful blue and brown exterior. On the inside, it's littered with nobles fraternizing amongst themselves, and announcements are made that they'll be leaving for Arcanium. They're also told to take a seat for their safety. One of said nobles glances in our boy's direction, pointing out that he's just looking around like some lost little kid. True to his word, UCL Twirls has had every which way, taking in the sights. The noble's companion then concludes that our hero has never been on a flying ship before, adding that he must be some country bumpkin. UCL overhears them regretting why Stella lets peasants into the academy, so he turns to see who's talking. The noble then doubles down, accompanied by 2 of his friends. He quips that the academy is supposed to be the most renowned in the world, and adds that they're sullying the waters with lowly folks. Our hero just stares at the noble blankly, and then sighs in disappointment. He concludes that kids are the same wherever you go, and simply walks away from the noble as he screams in annoyance. He continues to boil, and eventually calls out to our boy, telling him to stop. Meanwhile, the crowd begins to mumble amongst themselves. The noble turns around, wondering why everyone's being so loud, only for his eyes to widen in shock. Some lady with white luscious hair and a red bow on her blouse comes into view, and someone amongst the crowd calls her Princess Bowen. This pulls our hero's attention, so much so that he has to double-check if he heard the name right. Indeed, it is Princess Hongbowen Adalbert, the Princess of Adalbert Kingdom, in all of her glory. The crowd continues to mumble amongst themselves with every step that she takes. The troublesome noble immediately mellows down, placing his hand on his chest and referring to her as Your Highness. Princess Bayan only stares at him through the corner of her eye, and it sends chills down this youngin's spine. His speech stutters, and before he can get any words out, the princess brushes past him and then brushes past UCL too. He watches her go and admits that she's the villainess of the ether world. You see, Hong Bayon is one of the main characters of this game. She and the main female protagonist always have arguments, but she dies in the end. No matter what route one chooses to take in the game, Bayon never has a good ending. She's brutally murdered in some, and in others, she's bullied by the entire academy before getting expelled. In one of the routes, she goes through something so shameful that she never appears before the public again. Our boy deduces that the game developers must have something against the princess, seeing as they wanted her to suffer no matter what.